There we go. It's a bit different from the Zoom, which is that lady saying recording in process, whatever she says. Okay. Let me just get my presentation up. There we go. Okay. Can everyone see that? Yeah? Amazing. And can everyone see and hear me all right? Okay. I am in Wales and I do have a dodgy internet. So hopefully it won't be too laggy or too blurry or whatever. But if in doubt, Poppy will take over. It'll be fine. All right. So it's a massive welcome to this workshop. I always feel so privileged to be connecting with new people, to see new faces, and that so many people want to spend this time of an evening on a Monday evening to explore more about their relationship with their horses. And it always blows me away. And I think that's why these webinars, workshops always feel really special, because even if you've never met any of these people on the call, I know a few of you have met, but you're surrounded by like-minded people. And even if you never see them again, you know there's someone out there just as wacky as you, who's interested in the same stuff as you, and who values a relationship with their horse and themselves like you do. And even just having that knowledge is so nice when you're having one of those days where you might be questioning what you're doing, or you feel alone in what you're doing. You might have judgment around you and going, it's all right. I remember there's a few ladies on this world, like in the UK, who, you know, I'm in the same network as, who sees the world similar to me and who gets. So just a massive acknowledgement to all of you for showing up, for being here and showing your lovely faces so that you can connect with each other, even if that is just a nice nod in their direction, being like, yep, we get it, you're not alone. So that's always a real privilege for me to hold that space, so thank you. And today we're going to be talking about how to rewrite the relationship with your horse. And that is a bit of a weird title, because it's not that we want to kind of go back in the past and get attached to what has been, but actually it is looking at what no longer serves us in our relationship. Yeah, what no longer serves you in the relationship with your horse that's really important to you. And it's one of those where when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at changes. And when you do look back into your journey, if it's the past, if it is this horse, if it's another horse, if it's the world, your own life, sometimes having a shift in perspective actually does rewrite elements of your story and your relationship, because you've changed the way you feel about it, the way you understand it, the way you view it, and you process it slightly different. And then in doing that, you can take different steps forwards from that place. So it's not just about rewriting it, whatever that may kind of conjure up in your mind. It's about meeting yourself where you're at in the moment, today, right now, where you're at with your horse, knowing that is enough, and naturally allowing the next few steps to evolve because of meeting yourself in this moment right now. Okay, let me figure out my technology. All right, so the workshop is going to be primarily a slideshow where we're going to explore what unhelpful things might be holding you back with your horse. It might even be subconscious. It might not even be something you've acknowledged or recognized, but when we start to speak them and share them, even if it sounds obvious, it might just help to piece some things together that shift how you feel with your horse and your relationship together. Because working on your relationship with your horse, it's really hard, and it's something that is really misunderstood in the horse world and the wider world, because there's so much pressure to be a certain way, to do things to look a certain way, to be practicing certain techniques, to be valuing certain things because that's what we're told to value. So actually, this is the real hard stuff. You know, it's not to be swept under the carpet that that this is easy. Actually, you're looking at something that a lot of people aren't on that page yet. They're not comfortable enough to open that chapter and have a deeper look in what's inside. So acknowledging you for being here and just holding space for the unknown, what might come out, and how we can be unique and own our own path, even when the world around us is telling us specific things. And it's our choice now whether we want to subscribe to that, or if we want to follow our own path with what feels right for us and you and your horse. And yeah, just an acknowledgement of this group space. And, you know, already all of you feel like you're in a really safe space, and just being that supportive energy for each other, not sharing anything outside of this unless it's yours to share, just so we really feel like we are embodying what we believe with our horses, you know, that we are that support, we are providing that safe space to be open, to be vulnerable, and to not get caught in the cycles that we might be in the wider world. So this is a nice, safe group space. Yeah, let's just embody it. Let's be there, let's support, let's show up and learn. So as always, I invite you to just check in with your nervous system. So before we start, just taking a breath, arriving from the day you've had, and giving yourself permission to just have a little bit of a check-in. So you can stretch out your neck, your arms, take a breath. Notice if there's anywhere that feels a little bit tight or tense in your body. Might be your forehead, your belly. We've probably all had busy days doing lots of busy things, and now you're about to fill up your brain with more. So shaking out your hands. Don't worry if it feels a bit weird. And just take a few minutes, maybe not a few minutes, a few seconds in silence, just to arrive. Acknowledging any sounds that are in your environment, any thoughts in your head, any tension in your body. And if this feels uncomfortable, absolutely do what you need to do. You know, open your eyes, do what you need to do. But whatever you get from today is a perfect takeaway for you and where you're at and what you need. So there's no pressure to feel like you need to absorb everything, remember everything. It's about you feeling safe on your learning journey too. Okay. Now I'd love if everyone, I don't know if you can access the chat, but if everyone kind of comes back into the room and writes down one word that kind of encapsulates how you're feeling right now, that would be amazing. So if you click on the There should be a little chat feature. Don't worry if you can't find it. There's absolutely no pressure at all. Relax. Nice, Mandy. Slow. Like it, Pops. I'm feeling Christmassy. Keen. Love it. Yes. Nat's ready. She's ready. Curious. Love it, Bex. Amazing. I like it. Thanks, guys. Got the chat working. That's awesome. So anytime, if you want to interrupt me, go for it. I'm going too fast. Go for it. Let's get started. So a really brief introduction to me, because, you know, you probably read stuff, whatever, but, you know, to get here, you will have clicked on my website or read a few things. So I won't go on too long, but it's just, there's a few new faces here and also faces that I know already. And it's so lovely to connect with you. So, so, so lovely. And my name is Kat, for those people who've never spoken to me or met me before. And I am an equestrian relationships coach. Essentially, that means it is my real mission and passion in life to support people to feel more themselves in their relationships with their horse, and for their horse to feel more themselves in their relationship with their human, and also your relationship with yourself as well. So really kind of helping you both grow a relationship that's not just based on results or what you can do together, but actually how you feel in each other's presence, on a basis of feeling safe together, feeling seen, feeling in sync, and what that really means. So not just those buzzwords, but actually taking a step back and going, okay, what do I need in my component of the relationship? What might my horse need in their component of the relationship? And what might we need together in order to embody the relationship that we really, really want to create, that feels trusting and connected and balanced? So it's a lot of buzzwords in there. But yeah, it's just, I love helping people find their own way with their horses and themselves, so that you can really feel at home, and not like you have to do everything like everyone else says or does it, that you really feel empowered to listen to you and listen to your horse, even if that feels uncomfortable, even if that's inconvenient, but really championing yourself on that journey. And yeah, and supporting people to get there. So that's what I'm about. That's what I love. I do a blend of human coaching, so coaching with the person, a bit of release work with the horse, so any kind of emotional stuff that they've felt stuck in or need help to feel safe in their body and their nervous system, and then also about helping human and horse hear each other, see each other, and connect in a different way together. So that's me. And why are we here? This is what we're going to go through. We're going to go through why are we here? What is a belief? What is a narrative? What is a myth? What does it mean? What are some examples that we might have heard in the horse world that are actually holding us back from the relationship that we want with our horses? And we'll see if we can have a little bit of a discussion. Maybe there's some more you want to add to the table. Maybe you relate to a few of them in different ways. And then also I will share an opportunity with a program that I've put together, which I'm so excited to share, and there's no pressure or anything at all. It's just to kind of share a bit more on the back of this. If you're curious, if you want to learn more, what could be next for you? How does that sound with everybody? Good? Fabulous. All right, so when we think of an equestrian relationship, the relationship with our horse, there's always words that pop up. I've asked so many people now what a relationship means to them and their horse in their life, with others, the world, and the same kind of things pop up and flow through, which is always things like trust, connection, presence, joy, support, safety, listen, hear and understand each other, where feeling secure in your own way, what you're doing, doing things differently than perhaps what you've been taught or what others are doing around you, knowing the importance of what you bring to the table, and having a relationship that's built on things like connection and trust. So these are, when I ask people what relationship means to them, this is what kind of comes through. And it sounds amazing, it always sounds amazing. And even just reading that out, you might even have like a visceral reaction of what that might feel like. If there's ever been a moment in your life with your horse or another horse or an animal or a human where you feel that glimmer, it's just, there's nothing like it. And yet it's so hard. It is so hard to bring this into reality. And part of that is, this is not a usual experience that we are encouraged to create. What gets in the way for you? What might get in the way? And there are so many kind of branches to this question. And no, it's not what is wrong with you or what is wrong with your horse, or it's not that at all. It's a different shift of a question of, it's there. So what gets in the way? And what we're going to explore today is the deeper things under the surface, which might interrupt things without us even realizing. So if you look at the iceberg, it kind of represents us, you know, the things on the surface that we kind of have control over in some way, shape or form, that's more obvious to the, you know, to others, or it's like what we do, our actions, our language that we use, what our behavior. And that is often what we look at changing first. So we might look at, okay, what are the things I say, or how am I with my horse? How am I behaving? What technique am I using? We kind of go to the top of the iceberg first. That's kind of what we're encouraged to do. And there's a massive place for that, for sure. But actually, what's fueling that? What is the underneath the iceberg that might be influencing the top? And you might have seen this so many times, you know, it might be familiar picture, familiar story. But every time you look at it, it kind of lands a little bit differently, of like, it's all fueled from somewhere. What are the feelings within us? What are the emotions? What's our emotional experience in that moment? And how's that influencing the way we say things, our tone of our language, our choice of behavior, how our body feels in that moment, what thoughts are going through. And then you go a bit deeper, what are fueling those? And then you get the things like your inner beliefs, your inner programming, even things like biology and genetics, experiences, memories, and narratives. So all of that fuels the fire of what's on the top with our outwards expression. And this is all for a reason. This is not just, you know, this is not just coincidence. We all want to fit in. We are all mammals. We all want to be in relationships. We all thrive in a tribe. That is how we've evolved to be. So our brain naturally takes on myths, narratives, stories, beliefs in order to protect us from the world around you. So if you think about even in different towns or cities or countries, you'll have different stories, different narratives, different beliefs that you'll take on, because you want to match the world around you, right? You don't want to be the odd one out, because that might mean that you're not safe in that environment. You want to believe what others believe. You want to see what others see. And that's not necessarily a choice. It's what your body does. You don't want to be the black sheep when you're trying to be safe and fit in. And it also has a role in helping our world feel more predictable. You know, if we go, okay, this means this and this means this. And that's why loads of our myths and legends and stories came to be, because we wanted to explain things predictably. We wanted to feel in control of the uncontrollable. I might be like, what's this got to do with my horse? Don't worry, we'll spiral back. So what is a belief? A belief is a subjective attitude that something is true or false about ourselves, about others, or the world. And these might be so ingrained in us. And this is deep stuff. So, you know, if you feel a bit like, oh, take a breath, grab a cup of tea, have a little shake, it's okay. You can go as deep into this as you would like to. You can just sit on the surface and observe. That is totally fine. But some things we believe about ourselves in the world feel so ingrained that they feel like fact. So we don't question them. Things like Santa Claus, you know, when you're a kid and you're like, well, of course, an old man comes down my chimney. Like, I'm not stupid. Like, that's the thing. It makes perfect sense. Until you start to get a bit older and go, hang on, does it? But in that moment, that was a belief. That was a big belief of what's happening. I believed in a Barbie princess coming into my house because I didn't like the thought of Father Christmas. But here we are, same thing. So it might be the world is a dangerous place. I always get things wrong. Horses should be ridden. Fill in the dots, fill in the blanks. That's a belief. Is everyone with me so far? Good? Okay. Perfect. Thank you, guys. So then we've got a narrative. Very similar. It's just a story. So this feeds the beliefs that we have. So if we had our relationship with our horse in a book, the beliefs might be the chapters and our narratives might be the story within it. So our beliefs are like the title, and then the rest we fill in as well. And narratives are what are there to tell ourselves who we are, what we believe, and it kind of gives you evidence for things. So you might pick up on certain things in your environment which match the titles in your head, you know, those chapter headings, like, oh, I got it wrong again. I didn't read when he was going to do that again. Or, oh, my horse must think I'm this again. And the outside world, the equestrian world, also has narratives about what is true and untrue and right and wrong. And some things might already be popping up in your head. And finally, a myth, which we're going to try and debunk today, is a widely held but false belief, idea, or narrative. So you can see the progression of we believe something, and a myth is when it's not true. You know, a whole world can believe it, but it might not necessarily be true. Okay, I'd love to give you guys the floor. If you can share or type. Have you got any beliefs, narratives, or myths that come into your mind around your horses already? They're just popping in. Feel free to share them.
I'll just go ahead and say it because I'm too lazy to type. But one, like, I was trying to think of one that is like actively something that I'm having as sort of a belief or a narrative right now, rather than something I've kind of believed and then gone off of. And I think it's really about how I think I need to be for my horses, Willow and Annie. Like, I get really perfectionistic about it, and like, of course, it's really important to have a standard of what we need to do and how we need to be there for them. But I feel like I've been trying to kind of be a bit too perfect for them, and a little bit too like notice every single little thing. And yeah, just like the narrative that I have to do something that is in practice actually impossible. So yeah.
Thank you. That is such a juicy one, and one that I think, yeah, when you start working on your relationship and observing things and almost taking a different path, then we can almost go too far the other way, can't we? of being like, okay, I need to get everything, otherwise I'm not good enough, or I need to be perfect, otherwise I'm letting my horses down, ... So then it can be unhelpful in the other way. Yeah, really juicy one. Really relate to that one. Bex had one. Let me see if I can find the chat. There we go. If I take him out of the yard, he could run off. Yes. I'm so cautious and it's stopping us from exploring things further. I want to know the steps I can take to make me feel confident in us both out there. That's a really great example, Bex, because that's also from experience, right? So our beliefs are there to keep us safe. They want to protect us. Like our body wants to protect us with what we believe. So if we believe that, if we've had experience with something, we're like, yes, well, this has happened, so of course it might happen again and again and again. And if we believe that that is going to happen, then you won't do it, and then you won't put yourself in danger. And I think that's a really good one, because there's a reality there of you know, a pattern or an experience. And I got you. So he hasn't run off. Yes. Interesting. So that's almost nodding to like your brain going, okay, he could. And now we've almost spiraled it so much. Now we believe that he might. And then it's noticing and being able to separate, having precautions in place and feeling like we are there, but not being attached to the thing happening. So you can see how many layers there are to it and how nuanced it can be. Where do we find the faith? Yes. And I think that's how so many people feel around beliefs and narratives, because you can really feel stuck and trapped with your own mind. And that's part of the work, isn't it? Is like finding your way through it in like a practical sense. So nurturing that relationship between you, so you feel like you've got the tools and the connection there, and also the support and resources, but also acknowledging what can we shift in us so that we're not projecting that I think that you might do this, to help them feel more supported. Really interesting. Love that, Bex. Thank you so much for sharing. I know so many people are going to relate to that.
Yeah, I really relate to that as well. But I think I've got quite a few beliefs and myths and everything in my head. But I think the main one that I get a lot of people say is that I pander to my horse. And the reason why she behaves like she does, not that she behaves badly, but is because I give her negative attention. So when she's stressed, I should just let her get over it and get on with it, and walk away and stop pandering to it. And I feel like that's in the horsey world is, oh, the horse will get over it, just ignore it. Whereas I'm very much like, well, no, why is she this stressed? I want to know why she's stressed, and I want to help her through it and help her not be so stressed, which is something I've been working with her on over the last like few years, where I've started this journey of like, you know, natural horsemanship and stuff like that, help find those things. But yeah, that's always she has a bit of separation anxiety, and it's just, I'll just let her get over it in the stable. And I did that, and she reared up and got her hoof caught in a hay net. We had to cut her down, and she was off work for 8 weeks because she pulled her shoulder out. She was just, you know, hanging up there. And I was just like, oh, because I got told. And that's what that's always like. And then if I turn up at the yard because I've got her on full livery, she starts doing something. They went, oh, she's only doing it because you're here and you're giving her attention. And it's that sort of, I don't like it, because it's just like, I feel like she's trying to tell me something, but other people around me are, you're pandering, let her get over it. She's just being stroppy, and that's it.
Oh, I so hear you. You know what? It's so interesting. When I was putting the presentation together, I literally wrote one down, which is like, when your horse is loud or tells you something, then they're naughty, like, is in like a belief that like the horse world tells you. And yeah, it's so true, because it really shows how many negative labels there are when we're being attentive and we're trying to support them, and they're actually communicating with us their stress because they know we'll listen. And that's the difference, isn't it, of like, we're taught that if they don't say anything, it's because they're fine. And actually, your mare knows that you're going to listen to her, and you're the one who's going to be able to take you out of that situation. And yeah, I really hear that one. Thank you so much for sharing, everybody. That was really juicy. And something that just came to mind as well was, it can be really hard to change our beliefs and what we know as right for us and our horses when we are in an environment that practices and believes different things. And there's a reason why we've evolved kind of fit in with other people, because it's much less energy consuming. It creates less friction or less conflict. But actually, that's not what's going to change the world, and that's not what's going to be the voice for our horse in order for them to feel supported and seen, and then for the ripple of change to go across yards and then the world. It is people like us who will question things and observe and challenge, and be able to resource ourselves and support ourselves when we are in those environments that aren't conducive to what we believe. Okay. Jo, was there anything you wanted to share?
Am I off mute? Sorry, I'm not very techie, am I?
You're good. You're smashing it.
Getting there. Yeah, sorry, I can't type on the chat either. Yeah, mine is the classic one. I'm really working on it, as you know, Kat, but sometimes it's like overwhelming. I'm not good enough for my horse. And that stems right from when I first got her, and I got her off somebody who was like a really well-known trainer, did a lot of dressage and trick riding and things. And basically my mare, she just needed a mum. She was in a herd where she was bullied by the other horses, and she wasn't coping very well at all. And basically she needed to be in a quieter yard, and she needed more of a one-to-one relationship. And that's where I came in, and I fitted that beautifully, and we have been working on our relationship, and the connection is just amazing. However, I have these beliefs that I've got a big pair of boots to fill, and I'm really finding it hard to let go of that narrative that's telling me I've got to sort of live up to somebody's expectations all the time. And even though I am following my own path, doing my own thing, and we're working together, me and my horse, some days are good, some days are not so good, but I'm learning to sort of work with the horse you have today kind of thing. But it's still there, lingers at the back of my brain. Whatever I do with her, am I doing it wrong? I've got to get it right all the time. And it really bothers me that I just can't let go of that expectation all the time. It's just nagging away at me. When I do things with her and it goes well, then that builds my confidence. But then when it doesn't go so well, we have little micro tears, then I'm just like, oh, I'm just the worst person. I'm not good enough. So that's my narrative. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Jo. I think that is a real light for everybody who will be watching, because that is a real vulnerable one that we don't like looking at. Yeah, Mandy said that's something I've learned at my new yard. You have to deal with the horse today, not the one you had yesterday. And isn't it so amazing how much our belief in ourselves wavers from day to day, because there's another belief at play, that we might not be good enough, we might not be worthy, and what does that mean? And feeling like our relationship with ourselves fluctuates so much depending on the evidence we find in the environment, you know, what our horse is feeling like, what they've done, what our interactions have been, what our conversations have been. And to voice that and share that and own that, that's like a massive step in taking that shame away. Yeah, what the weather's doing, where the tracks are going, what the bins are doing. And I think that's why, yeah, this work is so important, right? Because you've done so much in it, and you've, you know, years and years you've invested in backing yourself and shifting this layer by layer. But some beliefs are really deep and they take a long time, and it spans a lot of things that might go beyond the horses, and really recognizing that as a journey in itself, and being compassionate and forgiving ourselves when our belief in us can fluctuate.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and finding that compassion for myself has been a real journey for me. If I didn't have that, I'd be a mess. But I do forgive myself for sometimes when it doesn't work out right, and I can look more inwardly now, whereas before I was just like, you know, I'm getting it all wrong. But now I can just go, actually, tomorrow's another day, we can start again. As long as I've got the right intention, and I, you know, go about it sort of with compassion to my horse and compassion for myself, we can start again. Yeah. And then tomorrow's always another day. Yeah.
Love that, Jo. Love that. And really speaking to, like, growing another belief takes time, takes energy, takes a lot of resource. It's like growing another tree. When one tree is really solid, like, I'm not good enough, putting another seed in and nurturing it and nurturing and nurturing and nurturing, it takes a long time to start seeing the fruits from that tree. I love how there are elements of all the things you've shared that I've been dealing with too. I'm glad that it resonates, Nat. And Beck said, it's all about self-permission and forgiveness. Yes. It's so easy to, when we're here on the Zoom in a safe space, be like, oh my gosh, yeah, like I need to forgive myself more. Whereas actually, yeah, in the moment, it can be the most hardest thing ever, because we're battling against some really big oak trees, sycamore trees maybe. All right, thank you so much for sharing, everyone. Really appreciate that. Horse guilt, yes, my goodness, yes. And no matter how, it still happens, right? It still happens. We're still human. Even if you're the best trainer in the world, there's still gonna be questions, because we're Duolingo level compared to what our horses communicate with each other. We're all learning, we're all growing, and actually we don't know anything really. We're still on that journey of discovery. So certain beliefs and narratives, just like Jo said, can be helpful. So belief in yourself, they can help us connect with other people, you know, finding like-minded people where you feel safe with, you can share, you can be honest, just like this space. It's a powerful tool. We can shape our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, and change a perception of our inner and outer worlds. But some beliefs can be so restrictive and limiting. They can engage unhelpful behavior, just like we just shared, of maybe worrying about what can happen, or unhelpful feelings, shame, guilt, things that haven't been processed, that don't align with that initial, like, you know, feeling of the relationship we really want. It can leave you feeling stuck, like you can't move forwards, because even if you take actions on the surface, there's something deeper powering you from underneath, and it can get in the way of relationships, our goals, and a positive sense of self, which is great news, right? Because our relationship with ourself is always changing, growing, and evolving, just like the one with our horses. And it's not about sitting here and going, oh my gosh, I'm ... because I believe these things. It's going, oh my God, yesterday I just took that as fact, and now I can see it's a belief. It's not my bones, you know. It's something that we can work with, we can acknowledge, we can hold, and we can start to gradually shift over time now that you can see it and acknowledge it. Otherwise, it would have been there all along, just underneath the surface with no awareness to be found. So actually, this is really helpful to acknowledge. And I did some research in university about how kids make food choices. And what I found in my research was it starts off, a lot of narratives and beliefs start off as an acknowledgement of something separate to you. So for example, my mum says, I need to eat this. My teacher says, I need to eat 5 a day. And then as they get older, they start saying, I need to, I believe I need to, I don't want to eat too much sugar, I am bad if I eat this. And you start to see these polarities of language coming out about you, what makes you good, what makes you bad, what makes you right, what makes you wrong. And depending on the environments that we've been in, that's what comes through our mouths, you know, that's what we consume, that's what we digest, and then that's what we also believe. And so in the horse world, it's a very interesting world to be looking at what beliefs and narratives are, especially if you've been in it for a long time. And if you have, I commend you for being here, because that is just amazing, because it can be really uncomfortable, you know, to look at what we absorbed, what we digested, and then what we fed through our horses, and now what our horses believe too. Not necessarily because of us, but our collective industry and world as a whole. What were you taught? What did you see? What did others say? What was your experience? And what was your feedback? These are all the things that will have had an impact. And now we can go, okay, what do I want to learn? What do I want to see? What do I want others to say around me? What kind of people do I want around me? What would I like my experience to be? And how do I want to respond now with what I know? So those are the questions that we can start asking ourselves in order to start shifting our core beliefs and values and narratives. So we probably won't have time to go through all of these, and not all of these might resonate with you. I've kind of thought about some collective things that we might feel or might be told that we want to debunk today. And even if that's just on an intellectual level where we can all sit here and go, yes, that sounds ridiculous. Even if we still somewhat have an attachment to it, that's totally fine. We're just moving with what we have a capacity for today and allowing it to unfold and as we go. So we're going to go through some beliefs, some narratives, and we're just going to explore them a bit. This is my perspective. There is no right or wrong. You're going to have your own perspective on this. It might be completely different to mine, and that is totally cool. There is no kind of, you know, there's no right or wrong here. You have your own experience, your own framework, what you know, and that's perfect. That's absolutely perfect. So take these and put it in your kind of program, and then you can make sense of it in your own way. And what will you rewrite? What do you want to rewrite in your relationship with yourself, with your horse, and also in the wider world? Because they're all connected. They're all connected. They don't exist in isolation. They all have the same roots to the same trees. All right. Everyone take a breath before we go into these. That was some really juicy, I absolutely loved it. A really juicy start to the workshop. So yeah, take a breath. Give yourself a little hug if you'd like to. Just have a bit of a reset. Clear your throat if you've got a cold. There we go. Just like we talked about, just digest and sit there for a little bit. Okay. Perfect. So we're going to start with our self. So things we might believe or hear about ourselves. So jokes that you're in my head. I'm not worthy enough for my horse. Who's ever felt that before? Yeah, me too. And when we see it, we're like, oh, of course we are. But actually, there's moments of it all the time. And it's the one thing I hear the most from all my clients is like, I just don't feel enough for my horse. I feel like I can't give them this. I feel like they'd be better off here. And often it just boils down to that, right? Of what is the biggest obstacle we face with our horses is not feeling like we are enough in whatever way, shape, or form. And the thoughts that came to me on this one, and I'm sure you'll have your own thoughts, which you're absolutely welcome to share too, is what do we define as worthy and enough? What does that mean? Not as like a rhetorical question, not like what does it even mean? But how are we looking at it through a human lens? So if we really stripped it back to horse and human, and before we started all the riding, before we started all the tomfoolery, making them do this, that, and the other, the frameworks that we put ourselves in, the boxes that we put ourselves in, if we do dressage, show jumping, whatever, I don't know, hobby horsing, whatever, what does that look like? What would our horses define as enough? It's like if you've ever had a boyfriend or girlfriend or partner, what defines enough? Is it they whisk you away to Tenerife every weekend and buy you a diamond ring but don't speak to you? Is it that they wear all the nice new clothes and they pay for all your things but they don't listen to you? Or is it maybe that even if they don't have the resources, even if they don't have the best of the best, or, you know, the whatever, fill in the dots, they listen, they care, they're there, and they're open to change, to providing what they might need in a relational sense? Because if you don't have relationship, what do you really have? And a lot of times when we say, oh, am I enough for my horse? The real questions we might need to ask is, what tools or resources might I need, or might they need? What changes in environment might support us? And how might I need support in myself in order to be able to support them better? Is there new knowledge I'd like to take on? Is there a part of their health I'd like to support them more? But none of that questions whether you are enough or whether you are worthy enough. And I often find it with clients who they've taken things right back to the beginning with their horse, or they're doing things differently, and there's that niggle in their brain of like, oh, if you were with someone else, you could be riding around here, or you could be jumping over this, you could be doing something really fancy. And the question that always jumps out to me is, if you're with someone who really truly sees and hears you, sometimes just sitting on the grass and having a chat is the best day of your life. And actually, sometimes, you know, going traveling or whatever doesn't compare to that, because you haven't truly been felt or seen. And even if you're struggling to see and hear your horse, you know, that's okay. How your horse feels in their environment, their body, and their relationship is the most important to them. Everything else comes second. And that's a journey in itself, you know, being able to provide that environmental support, that relationship support. And that's a journey that you go on together, but it doesn't ever question whether you are enough. And I know that kind of sounds like empty words, but yeah, I just thought it was a really interesting one to kind of redefine and look at. For me, it was rethinking my horse's environment. I had to listen to his shouts, took the plunge and put his needs first, and that's put us on a new journey. Absolutely. And how empowering is it when we get ourselves out of the way? So if our horses, for example, if you're hungry and you're asking the person you're with for food and they're like, oh my God, does that mean I'm not enough? Or if you're like, okay, I need to go outside, I need to go for a walk, and they're like, oh my God, does that mean I'm not enough? And when we think about it like that, we're like, oh my gosh, if that reframe meant I could actually listen to them and facilitate what they need without my own things getting in the way, that is enough. You know, like, yeah, sure, let's go outside, or yeah, sure, let's move house, or yeah, sure, let's, you know, what do you need? Because I know that my worth isn't in question. That feels a lot different. Really interesting. Okay. Myth number 2. Focusing on the relationship with my horse feels unproductive. Who's ever felt that before? Yeah. And this one is really nodding to the battle between our mind and our heart. And I don't have much to say on this one, because I really think just voicing it is enough to kind of allow us to question that in itself, and looking at the narratives around productivity in our world. You know, what is the stress and the emphasis on being productive? And actually, again, when you come back to the relationship and through a relationship lens, what does productive mean? And what if the most productive thing we could do was taking a different approach, more time to actually listen to our horses in that different way, and to nurture the core of the relationship, which everything else grows from. It's like, instead of saying, I need to pick the apple, I need to like get the fruit down, I need to get the fruit down. That's the most productive bit, right? Of like, yeah, right, we're going to get the olives, we're going to get the lemons, we're going to get the blackberries. But watering the plant doesn't feel productive. And that is like, oh, okay. The most productive thing we can do is water the plant, or prune the leaves, or give the soil nutrients. And yet it's the very thing that we as a society are taught to question and devalue, because it's not reaping the resources and the results. We need to carve out time and see it as valuable, yes. And that's hard. That can be really hard as someone in this modern world. Relationship is the most valuable resource to grow of them all. Oh, that was a bit of a deep one, guys. Oh my goodness. All right, we're going to do a few more. I don't want to overwhelm everybody, so I might do 1 or 2 more, and then we can have a bit of discussion. When I'm not able to be calm with my horse, I'm not trying hard enough, or I have failed. Has anyone ever felt this one before? Yeah. Okay, we've got a few hands up, which is lovely. And thank you for your honesty, guys, because it takes bravery and courage to own that we've all felt these things. And when you see someone else's hand go up, it's the thing that makes you go, oh my gosh, I'm not alone in this. So this one, I think, has been the biggest game changer for pretty much all my clients, including myself. And it's something I wish I learned when I first started with horses. It's that how we react and respond is actually very little in our control a lot of the time. And how we respond to something is how our body feels we need to respond in order to be safe. Even if on the surface that looks, sounds, appears completely what to our body, it makes perfect sense, because that's what the information that we're taking in and being processed based on our nervous system, based on our experiences, our memories, what we know, what we feel. That response is the exact response our body is giving us based on the information it has and the responses that have kept you safe before. That's the exact response that it feels like you need in that moment. Same with your horse. So when we look at them and go, it doesn't make any sense, it's just a bin, in their body, it's like, no, that might kill me. And that makes perfect sense to me in this moment. And we can often feel like we failed when we're not calm all of the time. We're not able to channel that horsewoman vibes with flowers in our hair and just feeling totally zen all the time, because your nervous system is not designed to be calm all the time. In the program that I'm going to share later, we explore this in a bit more detail, because it's so freeing to go, oh my God, I'm not crazy. How can I help myself regulate and be more flexible in my nervous system so that I can start to regulate more? And instead of getting stuck in those places of panic, in those places of shutdown, we find ways to come back to safety, because our nervous system is able to hold that space for us to, and find that path to come back. And it's making friends with our nervous system and our horse's nervous system, and going, no, my body's amazing. It responded like this because it felt like that's exactly what I needed in that moment. You've not failed. Being calm is overrated. Being flexible is now in. That's the fashion we all need to be paying attention to. It's not fast fashion. It's long, sustainable fashion that is really about finding a home in yourself and befriending your own nervous system responses and understanding them and feeling empowered within them. And then also understanding our horse's nervous system, because they're very, very similar. I appreciate we're rushing through these a little bit. So we're going to do 2 more. If I feel stuck or I don't know the answer, I'm doing something wrong. And this one, we look at it, we go, of course, it's fine if we don't know the answer. When you're in the moment, and we need Be Flexible wristbands. Yes, Bex, I'm going to release a t-shirt for your 2025 Be Flexible. So funny. When you're in the moment and you've just had a conversation with your horse, or there's a moment in your life where you're like, what do I do now? I've tried everything. I have tried all the resources I have, and I don't know how to move on from here, is the exact moment that you are ready for something else to hit you in the face, of a light bulb moment, of a new resource, a new mentor, a new coach, a new aha moment. And if we're perpetually stuck and don't know the answer, that can be something that you can explore further. But actually, in those moments, it is an opening of, there's a space. You're no longer able to put your framework and fill in the gaps. It is actually an opportunity for new knowledge to fill in, to be open, to listen, to observe, to do things differently. The best discoveries are made when the map feels lost, because now you might find different treasure because you're looking at the bigger picture. And that is one I will never stop learning, because just as I think I found the map, my horse has gone, no, not that map. Here's a new one. And it's led me to some really uncomfortable places. But now I start to get excited when I don't know the answer, rather than really deeply fearful. Okay, so I'm going to just flick through which one. I feel like we kind of, people in this circle might already be underpinning this, like taking this apart. If we aren't riding our horses, we are wasting them. And all I'm going to say is, if you're not riding your dog, are you wasting your dog? And I feel like that sums it up. Because sometimes it's just the ridiculousness of that statement, which almost goes, yeah, actually, if I'm not sat on my dog, if you're taking a dog for a walk and people go, why aren't you riding? You'd be like, are you okay? But with your horse, if you're enjoying them in a different way, if you're doing something else, people look at you like, why are you not riding them? And riding can be a wonderful extension of your relationship, but it's not why our horses were put on earth. And it's certainly not why, you know, why now we have these relationships with them, to get something from them. Equally, riding could be a beautiful, you know, it could be a pathway that you enjoy. But just putting that out there of, you know, your horses is their own being with their own mind and their own relationships. And when someone asks them, what do you want to be when you grow up? I don't think any of them would have been like, yeah, I want to have a human monkey sat on me and, you know, it's going to be great. That's all I want in life. They'd have been like, yeah, cool. We get to explore, maybe, like, you know, have some fun. But most of all, have someone who gets me and sees me and understands me. That's what I'd love. All right. So, statement of the evening. Why aren't you riding your dog? Yes, if that's your takeaway for today. Now that's something you can tell someone if you're walking your horse and they go, why are you not riding? So, no. Okay. So a horse wants to know who's boss. And I've just changed that to a horse wants to know who is safe. What nervous system can they feel safe with? Who is present, aware, patient, flexible, resourceful, who can guide them when they need guiding? And when you are a safe space, so your nervous system feels flexible and regulated enough, not all the time, but enough, and you're able to be present and notice when they reach out or when they avoid or when they feel insecure, when they feel confident, that's what they're looking for. It's not that they just like you. It's not that you are a lovely, likable person for us people pleasers. It's actually who's the safest. And sometimes the person who isn't the most likable, but is the safest, they'll pick every time. And that is a real big lesson in our own view on relationships and what's important, and our own narratives around that. How many more have we got? Okay. Conscious of time, guys. So myth number 8 is it's our horse's job to be an outlet for us to fill our cup. Actually, we brought our horses into this world, and it's our responsibility to get to know ourselves enough to fill our cup first, to be able to provide them and support them with what they need, and to be able to embrace their choices and needs because we've already fulfilled ours. And that is something that was really tough, and many people still find tough, and that's okay. Is the reason why we might have bought a horse is because they were our place to go galloping or riding or to get cuddles or feel something else. And actually, if that's not what our horse would like and value, or that's not where meeting them where they're at, can bring up a lot of feelings and uncomfortableness in us. So that's something we need to sit with as humans, to understand ourselves better, to be more resourceful, so that our horses no longer have to serve us in that way, so we can set them free. And that's a true relationship, really, is when you nurture your own needs and then come together in a different way. It's a whole different energy. Okay, I'm going to do this one finally, which is a long relationship means a healthy relationship. And I wanted to do this one to finish off because there can be a lot of shame around working on a relationship when you've had your horse for a long time. And it's something that I wish the horse world debunked, because just because someone's been married for 60 years does not mean that they understand each other completely. It doesn't mean they know each other completely, and it doesn't mean that they failed if there's any of those things. It's a new opportunity to get new resources, to forge a new path, to make new decisions every single day, And time is important in relationships. I'm not saying time's not important, but what I'd love to debunk in the world is a relationship isn't just about being created and then time continues. It's about moving from moment to moment, because a relationship is ever changing, evolving, growing, and the health, quality, and the dynamic of relationship depends on every single interaction, rather than being stuck or defined by what happened in the past. And the most important thing in relationships is consistently being present and responsive to each other in the here and now. And that is attunement. That is that feeling seen, heard, and understood and safe together. That is what a relationship is. So for any of you feeling like just because you've had your horse a certain period of time, just because you've had your husband a certain period of time, it doesn't mean that it's stuck now. You know, it doesn't mean there's any shame in turning over a new page and doing things differently tomorrow and today. All right. I feel like I'm going to leave those myths. There's a few more which I can post on, I can email to you. There you go. So there's a few more which I'm going to record separately and send to you. But rewriting beliefs can be really unsettling, but it can also set you free, because it's the light in the dark that we sometimes need to open a door for change. All right. So super conscious of time. So if you need to head off, if you need to pop off, absolutely do that. If you'd like to stay on for a little bit of a discussion, that is awesome too. And I'll share a little bit, just a few minutes on if you want to kind of explore a bit more, if you're curious, if you want to, have the support to change those beliefs with your horse. There's a program that I'm launching in January, which could be a really cool fit for you, but there's absolutely no pressure to do so. So before we move on to that, does anyone have anything they'd like to share that you're taking away or thinking about? I'd love to hear from you and what's resonated with you. Go for it, Jo.
I'm just loving the dog thing. I found that so amusing. That is just sums it up, doesn't it? It really sums it up. Yeah. And how people just sort of expect you to, because you've got a horse, they just expect you to ride. And why aren't you riding today? Oh, what's happened? You know, and it's, you could just get all these questions. Well, no, I'm not riding today. I don't need to ride every day, kind of thing. Yeah, I did, and the dog thing was just amazing. Well done.
Good. I'm glad that stuck with you.
Yeah, it really has. Yeah,
Just like nothing like a bit of humour to just bring everything back, eh?
Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you, Jo. I can see you saying that to some people in your yard. Is there? Oh, no worries, Bex. Thank you for being here. There's no pressure to share, but if anyone has any other thoughts, feel free to unmute.
I was thinking while we've been talking how much our beliefs are really results focused. So like we'll be thinking about, okay, am I enough based on can I do XYZ, or talking about the riding or all of the external things. Am I good enough for my horse if I can't take them as far as this person could go, or whatever? And I was thinking, like, I really liked what you brought in about how do they feel in their environment, and do they feel safe? And like I've really found that a lot of the communication stuff I've been doing, for people who don't know on the call, I've recently been learning how to do animal communication, and quite often people will sort of be like, oh, I don't know if this is okay, or I don't know if my horse feels happy with this or whatever. And I've done a lot of these with Kat's wonderful clients who we've all been working on all this stuff for ages, but generally the horses feel really, really safe with those people. And like while you were speaking, Jo, you were like, oh, I wonder if I'm enough for Pudding, and I was thinking, she feels so safe with you, you know. And it's really interesting how we've been taught to value these things, and that actually that's what matters to them, exactly as you were saying, Kat. They're not like, when I grow up I want to be competing and doing this or whatever. They're like, I just want to be happy, and I want to have a good life, and I want to feel safe in my human, I want to feel safe in my environment and in my herd and in my life. And other than that, they're fine. They're so much more flexible than us. They need so much less than us, because they don't have the world telling them they need to be up to date with the latest fashion or the latest this, or, you know, so that's what I've been thinking about.
I absolutely love that, Poppy. That's like a beautiful wrapping up of it all, really. And yeah, it just kind of brings it all back. Yeah, really. Thank you. That was beautiful, and so true. Beck said a full belly is very important to Cheek. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and it really just hammers home, doesn't it, of like what we've been taught about what makes us worthy, and all the boxes we've got to tick, and all the things we've got to be, and the boxes we've got to fill, and versus what our horses really bring us back to what's really important. Yeah, really beautifully summed up there.
I just want to sort of how I kind of look at it now is so we brought them into this world, so it's our responsibility to make them feel as safe as they can be, because they don't know what's going to happen from one day to the next, do they? We can't just sort of sit them down like a child and just say, right, today you're going to do this, we're going to go off in the journey on a car, and then you're going to go on a train and da-da-da. They just don't know whether they're going to be going on for a ride or having a bit of groundwork, or just sitting down on the grass having a conversation, you know. And it's just sort of, I just feel so responsible to make those horses feel as safe as they can be, and not just the horses that she lives with as well. I spend time with them as well, and just sort of try and tune in with them, and it's really important that they sort of understand that they are loved and they are safe. And I just wish the whole horse world would embrace that kind of feeling, because it's almost like, I want to use like you know, like slavery. It's almost like people buy and exchange and sell and pass horses on, and these poor horses, a lot of them are moved from pillar to post, aren't they? And they don't know what environment they're going to be in, or what human they're going to be with, and what that human's going to be like. And it's just quite, if you put yourself in that horse's world, in there, it must be very unsettling to be a horse in a human world. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely, well said. And yeah, and it's what, and we look at it through their eyes. That's why it's important we fill ourselves up, so that we can be a safer space for them. Yeah, Bexa, just spot on. Absolutely, Jo. Absolutely spot on. I love that you spend time with the field mates as well, just making sure they feel safe. That's beautiful. All right, guys, I'm conscious of time, so anything else in the chat, just pop it in, go for it. If you need to head off, do it. We'll just be on for another few minutes or so. But yeah, what are you throwing away? We've kind of already shared about it just now. What are you throwing away? What would you like to even just acknowledge that you'd like to throw away? And what would you like to grow in that place? What belief or narrative might be more helpful for you and your horse and your relationship and your story together? And just quickly, what's really important in helping you shift those beliefs? Things, you know, if we look at things like environment, what we're hearing, what we're seeing, what we're around, because that automatically influences what our hands do, what our eyes do, what our expectations are, what our beliefs are. Just by osmosis, we don't realize we're changing depending on those people we have around us. And we have to work so much harder when we're around people who are on a different part of the journey than us. And to be, you know, soft and patient and kind and regulated, that's a lot harder when you're around dysregulated nervous systems. So having a community that you can share with and be honest with, just like this, it's so important, and to feel really safe and seen in yourself, so that you can carry that feeling to your horse. Because if we're not feeling seen, we can't really cultivate that feeling for anyone else, because we don't have it in an overflow. And things like coaching can be so brilliant to help you with the really niggly ones, to help shine a light on some of them and just ask you some questions about, okay, you know, where might this come from? What would you like instead? What's important to you about this? And that's the power of having someone to support you. Is it's not just in your head. You're not just having a conversation with yourself in your head about and getting yourself in a bit of a spiral, or talking to someone who might not get it. One-to-one support can be really transformational. If that's not with me, that could be another mentor or another facilitator or another teacher. It can be really helpful when they align with what you believe in. And education and resources and tools, because that sneaky little left brain, a human brain, it loves to find evidence for what we already believe. So if we find a new framework or new evidence or new research or tools and resources, you can start to feel validated in what you actually feel underneath, because your brain has like a bone to chew on about, oh yes, well this research shows this, or this tool finds this. And it's almost like a really nice bridge into coming home to yourself, especially if you're kind of on the start of that journey, being like, okay, I need to know why I'm doing things and what's important about that, so that I can actually really lean into it and embrace it, and let the other stuff kind of fall in and listen and be still, because I know the benefit it has for me and my nervous system and my horse. And practice, you know, think of how many years you've spent in this time with the beliefs and frameworks that you already had, and now how much you need to nurture the new seeds and new trees that are growing. And practice, you know, might not be perfect. It's about imperfect practice consistently, forgiving yourself consistently, and acknowledging what you would like to believe instead. And really quickly, super conscious of time, thank you all for staying on. I really wanted to support people in doing that, and not like I'm so conscious there's so many programs out there and there's so many people selling everything and whatever, but I really wanted to make a program which really encapsulated this stuff and gave people the space and time to explore it and feel not that you're being put through a pressure washer, but actually it's about being curious and to really discover the resources that are meaningful to you and your horse, and the knowledge that can help you to help you rebalance the core of your relationship, so that everything else can kind of unfold in that place, rather than looking at the outside in from techniques. It's about how can you really feel that grounded, safe space between you and your horse before you put anything else on the top. And I really wanted it to be stuff that I feel like our horses wished that we knew, things that we're not taught in the horse world, the things I had a psychology degree, I didn't learn this stuff, I had to go out and find it myself. And it's the bridge a lot of the time, because it's not easy accessible, this stuff, and it should be, you know, the relationship with a horse is so important. So in this program, it's going to be about supporting you one-to-one. It's also going to be about having group workshops. So just like this, like we're going to explore like content together about your nervous system, attunement, how to create that with your horse. And also every month you're going to get a free tapping. So like a handy little resource where you can shift and ground through something called emotional freedom technique, which you can do with your horse if you'd like, which is lovely. And you also get a little worksheet as well. You can fill in with all the things that we've been exploring. And yeah, we're going to do 4 modules over 4 months and just really take the time to explore them one at a time. So you've got your relationship, nervous system, regulation, and then how you can grow that with your horse, how you can grow that co-regulation with your horse so they feel safe with you. And yeah, it's a really pit stop tour. I don't want to kind of go on about it too much, but just in case people are really curious and you want to find out a little bit more, just reach out and I can send you the rest of the details. Just wanted to put that out there if you enjoyed today and you wanted to kind of continue that journey a little bit. But yeah, wherever you are on your journey, I just want you to know that there is a safe space for you to grow. You are seen and you are heard and you're not alone. So Beck said, can this help humans and horses during periods of change? So helping quiet the storm? Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's elements of one-to-one support. So like just human sessions as well. So away from your horse where you can just be totally open and honest and share what you want to shift. And then sessions with Duke as well. So, working with me quite well and that space that creates and just having a pause, pressing pause and reset and not coming to a session with pressure to kind of do this or be this, just meeting yourself where you're at and helping you navigate your changes in your relationship however way you would like to. So yeah, and just a massive thank you for being here. I'm so conscious of time that we've run over, but I'm so grateful for you all. We've had some really beautiful conversations and discussions, and I hope you have an amazing Christmas. I really hope you do. And yeah, if there's any extra questions, takeaways, things that you'd like to share, get in touch with me on email or we're booking a call. Yeah, it's been so lovely to connect with you. Is there any other thoughts that anyone would like to share before we say goodbye?
I'd say thank you very much for doing this tonight. It's been really interesting, and it's something that I've been looking at your website on and off and your Facebook page and everything, so it's nice to actually meet you if that makes sense. But yeah, it's very aligned in how I think, if that makes sense. And I've already looked at the course that you've just mentioned, and the regulation is something that I really struggle with my emotion regulation, which I know impacts my horse. Because if I can't regulate my emotions, then she's like, what's going on? And then I'm like, I don't know what's going on either. And that is the only time me and her clash, is when I can't control how I'm feeling. So I'm quite interested to explore that side of things a little bit more, so I can try and help keep her grounded a little bit more, possibly myself with things. I suffer with quite severe anxiety and everything, so yeah, it's something that I very much project outwards. Yeah,
and you're so not alone there, because it's like you say, it's easy to know when we're not okay in the moment, but actually it's like, well, where do I go? What do I do? How can I kind of shift this right now? Yeah. Oh, it's been lovely to see you face to face and actually just connect and yeah, let's absolutely booking a chat and we can see how that fits. Yeah, that sounds awesome. That sounds really cool. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, team. Thank you so much. I hope you have an amazing evening, Christmas, New Year, all the rest. And yeah, take care. See you soon.
Thank you so much, Kat.
Pleasure. Bye, guys.
Bye.